Compliments of the season, everyone, and welcome to Law Weekly. I am Shola Sheyeli. A judicial workers' strike action, a siege on the home of a Supreme Court judge, conflicting court orders, and even deaths in the judiciary, some as a result of the coronavirus. These are just a few of the things that come to mind when one thinks about the activities that shaped the judiciary this year. Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, shares with Law Weekly his views on some of these issues and the impact it's all had. I'd like to start with your assessment of how well the judiciary fared in this year, 2021. As the year winds down, how well would you say that the judiciary has performed?
I think the year 2021 has been a year of challenge for the judiciary in Nigeria. In spite of the very hostile legal environment, our judges can be said to have contributed to the stability of the system, political stability in Nigeria. You will recall that this year we had the prolonged strike by the judiciary staff, a strike that was meant to advance the campaign, the struggle for financial autonomy for the judiciary. That battle was won. In principle, we're now trying to see how judicial autonomy would be allowed after the strike. We're having the first sets of budgets. So we want to see whether indeed financial autonomy would be institutionalized for the judiciary of our country. Secondly, the COVID-19 challenge was also confronted by the judiciary. Initially, talking of the 2020-2021 legal year, this has been the greatest challenge that has ever confronted the judiciary, not just in Nigeria, but all over the world. Unfortunately, in our own case, we didn't take advantage of the pandemic to incorporate in our system virtual proceeding, virtual hearing, whereas the Supreme Court had made it clear to all and sundry that virtual hearing is not against any of the provisions of the Constitution with respect to fair hearing. Unfortunately, our courts are likely back to where we were before the pandemic, whereas other courts in other parts of the world, including, of course, the African Court on Human and People's Rights in Arusha, Tanzania, the Court of Justice of the Economic Community of West African States, the ECOWAS Court in Abuja, have all migrated to virtual hearing. As a matter of fact, the ECOWAS Court has said that it is not going back to physical hearing. I can say that since last year, July, the ECOWAS Court has not conducted any physical hearing. I take part in the proceedings of it. And the last appearance in the African Court, the 11 judges of the court took part in the proceedings from different parts of it. The lawyers representing about 12 countries sat in their country and participated in the proceedings of the court. And that is what we expect in it. Apart from Borno State and Lagos State, where some judges will conduct virtual hearings subject to the agreement by counsel, we still have a long way to go.
What would you say is the greatest challenge militating against proceeding with virtual court hearings?
Number one, the system will have to provide funding to ensure that virtual hearing can be conducted. Our courts will also have to try as much as possible to meet the expectations of the public. I was just reading the president this morning where he was saying his usual comparison between when he was the military head of state and, and now as a civilian president, and where he still said that when he was a military head of state, it was much easier or better to fight corruption. With profound respect, this regime has recorded more success in the fight against corruption than when President Buhari was a military head of state. Unfortunately, certain elements in the government have in fact frustrated the courts from contributing meaningfully and positively to the fight against corruption. You have had cases where the Attorney General has filed nolle prosequi to stop serious corruption cases. You have had situations where the Office of the Attorney General has entered into agreements with people who are facing serious corruption charges. And those agreements are then taken to court. We have never had this kind of situation in our country before, where you go and sit down in a hotel, either in London or New York, and sign an agreement with those who are wanted to stand trial in your country, and then you present the court with a fait accompli.
Is there anything that the country can do about that?
Beg your pardon?
Is there anything that the country can do about that, where certain people in government, like you've said, frustrate the
president who is complaining that he's not getting the expected results, to look inwards, go back to the drawing table, whereas our courts, I can tell you, not less than 1,000 houses have been forfeited to the government in the last 6 years or thereabout, through the instrumentality of the law. The last one, I think a few days ago, the ICPC recovered from one single civil servant, not a politician, 301 houses and about 9.6 hectares of land in the Federal Capital Territory. Now, these assets have been forfeited to the government. I think there was another one about 38 properties were recovered from a lady, I think she headed one of the agents. Another one has lost about 80 properties. No, 86. Another lady. Now, I mean, the one of 301, it's a man. But the courts are giving orders, interim orders, permanent orders for the forfeiture of these assets. But the trial of those who are involved is being frustrated by the government itself. So the president cannot complain.
Another senior lawyer, Tunde Kolawole, wonders about the role of the National Judicial Council, NJC, in a federal system. He speaks about reforms and other issues.
By and large, I would want to say, given the challenges that we have earlier on mentioned, the COVID-19 the prolonged strike, the executive rascality, as I would say it, in terms of some of the agencies of government or the executive arm of government, like the security people, going into people's home to do what they are not expected to do. In spite of all that, you still want to say that the Nigerian judiciary has done fairly well. And they've done fairly well simply because of the caliber, the competencies of some of the people, or most of the people you have in there. Even though it couldn't be said to be 100% in terms of personnel layout, but by and large, you could say 95% of most of the people you either find on the bench or in the bar have been able to live to expectations as regards what the society expects of them. The drawback has always been that most of the things, or some of the things we would have loved to do as an institution, there's always financial incapacity to get done with some of those things. From the executive arm of government, it's only when money is available that they will release to the judiciary. Even at the level of the bar too, you and I would know that when individuals are not doing well, the bar itself could not be able to will not be able to execute most of the program that they have set for themselves, because most time the dues, levies, and charges that we pay are not enough to run our activities. I would say that from the level of finance, the executive arm of government has still not lived up to expectation. The Chief Justice of the Federation, the CJ in the respective states still have to go cap in hand. And it is only when it pleases the executive that these monies are released. The second one is the politicians. The politicians, I want to say, they've been a kind of bone in the neck of the Nigerian judiciary, because you find out with the money in the hands of politicians and all that, there's hardly an institution that they cannot compromise. And most times when they want anything done, they are ready to do whatever it takes to really get results. You have seen the number of cases in which even judges are now being disciplined with regards to the kind of interim orders that they have been given. You are now aware about the chairmanship of the PDP, in which contradictory and even courts that had no jurisdiction to entertain some of these matters and all that, they went in there because of the influence of the politician. And why do the politicians have that kind of overriding influence or very big influence usually? Well, they appoint most of the people on the bench. Secondly, like I said, they have enormous resources at their disposal that they can always deploy to get whatever results that they wanted.
But talking about the discipline that we saw come from the National Judicial Council, especially for some of those judges whose decisions were questionable, the granting of ex parte orders, and you've talked about political interference, and a lot more people think that as we go into the election season, we are going to see a lot more of that.
More challenging.
Do you think that that's disciplinary action of the NJC, saying barring some 3 judges from promotion, do you think that it's far-reaching enough? Because I've heard some senior lawyers say nothing is going to happen. It's just same of the same. Are those judges even interested in being promoted? Are some of them even going to be qualified for promotion? You know, there's been so many issues raised.
A lot has happened. A lot has happened. Those things have been documented. They are it's part of their records, part of the records of those judges. Letters will be written to them informing them that for social reason and all that, for this period of time, you are not entitled to promotion, and then you can get these privileges and what have you. For people at that level, I would want to think that that is more than enough sanction for those of them who could read in between the lines, because in future their children, their great-grandchildren might be reading the history of the Nigerian law and come across that their father, their grandfather, their grandmothers and all that were indicted at one period or the other for not being diligent in the discharge of their responsibilities and whatever. Where I have problem honestly speaking, with due respect, is that I don't believe in the NJC. I once wrote a paper with regards to that in the federal system of government, and then the NJC, for me, it's an abnormality. In the past, we do have the Judicial Service Commission at the federal level and also at the state level, which were in charge of discipline, promotions, and the remuneration of judges. And why don't we leave it as that? Well, it was thought that immediately you have the NJC, things will get better, but has it gotten better? The answer is no.